systems go. Clear for liftoff. Minnesota, hats off to thee, to our colors, true we will ever be. What's going on, everybody? Coming off of a Minnesota victory, we're back for another slate of college football here at SHIPIT Nation. My name's Bill. Put a dollar in front of it, and you'll find me on Discord and Twitter. And joining me today, my good friend and SHIPIT Nation colleague, Ian. You know him, I am Robbins on Discord and in the cash streets on DK, but you dabble in GPP a little bit too, don't you, Ian?
Oh yeah, every kind of CFB contest we gotta play a little bit of.
Yeah, and I mean, I gotta tell you first off, I'm glad you're here. It was great having Kenny on yesterday. I just recorded the Saturday show before this, and it's so much talking. It was a mess. I had the wrong stone up from the get-go. I was stumbling over my words, random freezes. I called Florida Atlantic, Western Kentucky. Which makes sense because of all the transfers. So if you want to watch a grown man fumble all over himself, watch the Saturday stream after we release that. But you know what? It's week one. Our heads are spinning. Our eyes are crossed, but we're here for another slate of college football. We're all greased up and ready to go.
Yeah. More college football week one this is what it does to us. There's games every day. You know, it's fun though. This is the grind that we love, the sweat that we love.
Oh, to the sweaty tryhards. That's absolutely right. We're all glad CFB is back. What's going on, Marty? Michael, Rick rolled. What's up, boys? The ECU stacks did you dirty. Yeah, there were a lot of stacks that did us. There's actually quite a bit of boring football yesterday, if I'm going to be completely honest. But I do got to agree with Paul Supple. Drake Lindsay looked great. Gears, 8 targets, 4 catches, that sick touchdown. I'm excited about the Gophers, but we have a brand new slate of college football. Before we jump into it, I do want to mention we still have a couple days left to get in on this football early bird special at SHIPIT Nation. $349 for the entire season. It includes SaberSim, one of our new partners. It includes the Stone projections ownership. And we call it a football package, you'll notice, not an NFL package, not a CFB package. We package them together. It's like you could say buy one, get one free for CFB and NFL because we don't want to separate the two. $349 for the entire season. And for a few days, you'll get a look at the all access package. Even if you only buy this football only package, you'll get to see some of the other sports. I know we're winding down a lot of them, but we still got baseball going on hot and heavy, and we're preparing for NFL season. And like I mentioned, SaberSim is one of our partners, and we now have access to packages that include SaberSim within our SHIPIT Nation membership. So that's super awesome. They've been a great partner. And when you go to our website, shipitnation.com, you'll notice the SHIPIT games at the top, $79,267. That's a lot of money. So what is SHIPIT games, you might ask? Well, if you go to shipitgames.com, you'll see this golden SHIPIT at the top. It's like a golden ticket from Willy Wonka. Essentially what it is, we kind of look at it as almost like an exclusive SHIPIT live final sort of thing, where throughout the season, you'll have the opportunity to earn these golden SHIPITs and take part in a contest at the end of the year with a huge prize pool. Top prize $20,000, second place $10,000, third place $5,000, and it'll only go up from there. The whole prize pool, like I said, is the $79,267, so almost $80,000, and it does have the opportunity to go up too. We have this share a ship. There's a few games that we'll play throughout the season, but I'll highlight this share a ship right now. A ballot winner will get to have a lineup entered on their behalf by Tambo, the $333 Wildcat. And you see the percentages. 10% of the profit goes to the winner. 50% of the profit will go into this prize pool. So the prizes can only go up. And like I said, I could read through all of this for you, but shipitgames.com will give you all the information. I don't need to bore you because I know we want to get to college football, but it's just a super awesome and really unique concept that we're doing at SHIPIT Nation as a way to give back to our community. That's truly devoted to us. It's the greatest community in all of DFS. And we always are looking for a way to grow our product and give back to the people who give so much to us. And then one more thing I want to highlight, if you go to the More tab on shipitnation.com and go to the logos section, you'll see 2 SHIPIT Nation logos. Why are those so special? We also notice the winner circle by SaberSim. So this is something that SaberSim like I said, a great partner has let us in on and allowed us to take part in. We have access to their Winner's Circle promotion. So it's basically, if you rock one of these 2 approved logos as a SHIPIT Nation member, you have access to these prizes if you follow the general rules, finish in the top 5 for at least $1,000. And it must be 10x your entry fee. Again, I won't go through all the rules here, but you can find them at shipitnation.com. And if you get $1,000 win in the top 5, a month free of SHIPIT and SaberSim. As the prizes go up, as your winnings go up, you get bigger prizes here. And they didn't have to, but they did because they're great. SaberSim included us in their Rolex watch giveaway for Millie Makers. And we've had a few Millie Makers here at SHIPIT Nation, obviously always looking for more. So all in all, to say, Ian, now's the perfect time to get in on SHIPIT Nation. We're heading into what will be our biggest football season yet.
Oh, no doubt about it. SHIPIT's got the best content, not just for football, but for all sports. It's all in one place. You know, it's the best stuff out there. No doubt about that.
For sure.
The best time to do it.
Yep. And it's, I mean, honestly, it is. Oh, that's the real stone. You got a little look behind the paywall. But yeah, shipitnation.com. Sign up for that early bird package. Just a few days left. It expires on September 3rd. But we're going to jump into what we came for, and that's for college football DFS, day 2 of week 1. And we have 7 games on the slate. Yes, 7. We're going to start off with Appalachian State at Charlotte. Technically a neutral site because it's the Duke Mayo kickoff game or something. It's going to be played at the Carolina Panthers Stadium. I don't know how much we care about that, but just a little bit of a breakdown. We don't have anything conclusive 100% at quarterback. We could see A.J. Swan and J.J. Cole. So that's something that we're going to be taking a look at right up until lock, which is another reason to get into the SHIPIT Nation Discord, because we discussed that all the way up until lock at 7 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Lord's time zone. Rashad Dubinion is a transfer from Arkansas. So he's an SEC player now playing in a group of 5. We always like that kind of transfer. We have Jaden Barnes, who is an FCS guy, but you could call him Arnold Schwarzenegger because he was a strong governor. He played for Austin Peay. He was very good there. And just some names that you might recognize from the past, from like Dalton Stroman at App State. And then on the Charlotte side, Tim Albin, Ohio's old coach, is now their head coach. Connor Harrell, UNC transfer, beat out Grayson Loftus, Duke transfer. That's fun. Gainey and Rutledge seem like the guys. Rutledge is a speedster, and he's a punt and kick returner. So if you want to have that little bit of punt return and kick return upside, that's always good. And then Jaden McGowan is playing against his old quarterback. He and Swan played together at Vandy. It's going to be a competitive game, not the highest total that we're looking for in DFS for college football. So what are you thinking here, Ian, for this first game?
Well, first thing is it's a tighter spread, one of the smaller spreads on the slate. We got someone neutral. A lot of the questions, a lot of unknowns. App State going through a quarterback, kind of a late transfer with Aguilar leaving to go to Tennessee kind of late in the cycle, so we don't really know what's going on there. But see a lot of power schools, SEC transfers down, which usually they're looking for opportunities, and that talent, is pretty appealing, especially with Dubinion, who was pretty productive at Arkansas, coming in as a running back at App State. We don't really know what to expect from Charlotte. They're going through a coaching change, regime change. So, they brought in some talent kind of going through things. But the thing that's appealing about this game right here is if you can get some things right, especially if you're building out a bunch of lineups, there's a really cheap options, especially in the receiver and really the running back core. And it's a tight spread. So if it goes back and forth, last night we saw some ugly games. Maybe tonight we see some more explosive games. And total's about 50, so it's not crazy small, but it's not one of those blowout games that's on here. So it could be competitive, could be sneaky for you. A lot of cheap options, if we get them right. When it comes down to this, I like to try to play talent. Guys looking for opportunities down in some group of 5 schools.
Yeah, and Mike in the chat, App State travels well. He said they played Charlotte a few years ago, and App State fans filled the house. And that's, like I said, since it's technically a neutral site game, the ticket sales are going to be a lot more balanced. I'm certain they're not like season ticket holders probably don't necessarily have the same access to this as they would a true home game. So take that nugget for what you want. We're always looking for little edges in DFS, and maybe App State traveling well is one of them, especially as a favorite. So yeah, and that's, like you said, the the topsy-turvy nature of this quarterback room, we're probably going to have to wait to see. AJ Swan, he's a dual threat, correct? He did run a bit at Vandy, if I'm not mistaken.
Swan ran a little bit. Harrell's definitely a guy who ran a lot in North Carolina, kind of in that scheme of things as well. Yeah, I wish we had some more clarity in the App State side of the quarterback room, but that's the nature of week one.
Yep, and I listened to the Black and Gold podcast this morning, and they kind of put it best. They said that I understand why they're not releasing it too deep, but that doesn't mean we have to be happy about it. And that, right. I mean, that's music to our ears. The depth chart, like roller coaster in college football, is the bane of our existence most of the time.
Yeah, but that's what we're searching for, day in all these little things.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to a game that's better on one side. Kennesaw State at Wake. It's a 17.5-point spread. Even Wake Forest is a 3-score favorite against Kennesaw State. Our colleague and friend Monday Dynamo is a big Wake Forest fan, and I'm sure he's still nervous about this game, despite Wake being heavy favorites. So we got we got the Kennesaw side. Dexter Williams was at Indiana, then Georgia Southern, maybe the best quarterback Kennesaw's ever had. Coleman Bennett is cheap, but it's Kennesaw State. And then there's just a bunch of names in this wide receiver room that are all sub 4K. So you're really looking at like a touchdown or, a lot of targets. They could be throwing a lot with this kind of spread. But it's one of those teams. Their coaching staff is new. Their head coach got let go in a weird way last year, and not a lot of people were happy about it. So morale isn't necessarily high at Kennesaw State either. But on the Wake Forest side, Robbie Ashford is probably priced exactly where you want him to be. He's cheap enough that you can play, not too expensive, but not too cheap that he's going to be super mega chalk. But really, this offense runs through Damon Claiborne. He should get a heavy workload. We're looking at he's not Ashton Genty, but he might get Ashton Genty type workload at Wake. And then, Carlos Hernandez transferred in from Wazoo. Burkhalter's in from Cincinnati. There's some names, again, in this wide receiver room that are cheap. But really, are we looking at anything beyond Damon Claiborne in this game, even with a 34-point total? How are you approaching this one?
Yeah, Claiborne's an absolute stud. Stud of the slate. He just is going to probably touch the ball 20 to 30 times. They just run everything through him. They did last year. He was super productive in games that they were not competitive in. And he's a prospect too. He's really good. Don't overlook Ashford though. He was very productive in the SEC with Auburn. He could move. He wasn't a stable starter, but when he was in there, he moved the ball. He could run. He's getting an opportunity here at Wake, and he could be it. One of those guys that really steps up and helps out. Him and Claiborne could play off each other. If they really break into that run game. But yeah, Claiborne is going to be one of those guys that really has a high floor, high ceiling type deal. A lot of targets, a lot of touches. We want touches in a football game. Claiborne's going to get them.
Yeah, and even at 8,600, there's plenty of ways that you can fit him into your lineup on this. I think this might be a little bit tighter pricing than last night, but it's still very viable to get Claiborne in your lineups. And like I say, I've said it a lot these first couple of weeks with some of these Power 5 schools that are Power 4 that may not be the best in their conference or best in P4. If you're this is the week to play these guys. When Wake Forest is playing Kennesaw State, you don't want Wake Forest up against their conference opponents later in the season. You want to play these guys now.
Yes. This is where they try to get their wins.
Yeah, and Langley said in the chat that Ashford is dangerous in the red zone. If they can run an option with these two guys, it could be lethal. Lethal by Wake Forest standards. But that also brings up a good point here to get your questions in. We're going game by game, so if you have questions about a specific game, we're happy to answer them as we're going through. And also hit that like button. The like is free for you, and it's great for us. It allows us to keep providing free content like this at SHIPIT Nation. And we always want our content to be free. It has always been free and will continue to be free. But that engagement on our videos certainly helps. And we got Marty in the chat too. He's part of our SHIPIT Nation team. Ashford is boom or bust. And I think that's kind of what Ian was getting to too, is he said when he was in, he was good. He just wasn't stable. He's not a consistent player. And I think that's where his downfall at Auburn was. But a resurgence. We've seen it in other guys. We could see it here with Ashford too. Western Michigan at Michigan State, an in-state battle. Not much of a rivalry, but we'll take what we can get. It's a huge spread. Western Michigan's implied team total is only 14 points. I can go through these guys in depth, but really, like, Brady Jones won the job, but we could still see Brock Lowry. Jalen Buckley was in a timeshare with Jaden Nixon last year, so now he's kind of all by himself. I don't know if they'll run two guys out. Cabana is a transfer in from Michigan, so I don't know. And again, it's a wide receiver room that they're all sub 4K. Can the quarterback get him the ball? I don't know that you're going to take a chance on too many of these guys, at least not heavy in your lineup pool. But then Michigan State, again, another team that's not top in their conference, but this is a spot to play these guys. Aiden Childs I think he's always been like a $7,000 to $7,500 quarterback, whether he's worth it or not. Normally, yet to be determined, but I think this week he probably is. This running back room is interesting because Elijah Taught-Oliver is a guy I think you looked into. He's a Sac State transfer. He's been getting a lot of love out of camp, but really all three of these top guys could see the field. I've seen different articles list three different guys as the starter. So it's one of those situations where we're going to have to wait and see to know exactly what we're going to find in this backfield. But this is a spot where all three of them could score a touchdown, or if you do get the right one, if we get a hot hand situation that could set you apart in GPPs, because I don't think anybody's going to be playing these guys. And the wide receiver room's a little bit more familiar. Nick Marsh was a stud last year. Amari Kelly was arguably Middle Tennessee's best wide receiver. Kreishawn McCray, while it was the MAC, he was in the top tier of the MAC wide receivers. And Jack Bailing's a solid tight end who's back. So it looks like another one-sided game, Ian. Are you touching Western Michigan at all, or are we really keeping it to the side?
No, Western Michigan's quarterback, Brady Jones, he came over from JUCO, beat out the backup from last year. Buckley's way too high price. These are just guys that we want to keep in mind for those action slates later down the road. But I'm not going to touch these. We saw last night, when the MAC was going up against the Big Ten, they were kind of slog games. And that doesn't mean necessarily that's going to happen tonight, but the matchups are pretty similar. But on the Michigan State side, there's a couple interesting things. So you mentioned the running back room. Taught-Oliver is the only guy that has starting experience with actual carries. Two other guys, Frazier and Tullis, those are incumbents there. But there is a little bit of consistency when it comes to the roster for Michigan State. It's year two of Jonathan Smith being head coach there. Childs came over with him. He started last year. It's definitely up and down. This is a big year for improvement for them. But there's a little consistency. He's a starter for the second year at Michigan State. Velling came over with him as well. Again, starter. Marsh was the top target last year. And they brought in a couple good transfers moving up from a group of 5 teams to the Big Ten play. And these guys were productive. McCray was Kent State's lone bright spot the last few years at receiver. Mari Kelly is a guy that has really been blowing up camp, getting a lot of targets at some decent prices for a team that's implied to score 35 points. And we, with actually some stability in the passing game with the quarterback.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit earlier about Damon Claiborne being expensive. This is some great value to help you get that 8,600 for your running back. And we've mentioned it in the past. We mentioned it in our Discord. We mentioned it in our meetings. Pay up for running back when you get a workhorse. It's worth it. Yes. And you'll find your value at wide receiver. There's going to be value at quarterback most of the time. Until we see it differently, we're going to continue to preach that most of the time, if a running back is expensive for a reason, and more often than not, they're worth it. Oh, this is a fun one. Auburn at Baylor. Yes. We do have potential weather. There's rain and lightning in the area now. I don't think it's going to last. It's just going to be in the 90s, so it'll be hot. Auburn's pretty new toy quarterback, Jackson Arnold, the 5-star OU recruit now at Auburn. We have Damari Alston in the running back room. He'll lead the way there. We might see Jeremiah Cobb a little bit, but they did run a workhorse-style running back last year. And then Cam Coleman, stud freshman last year, priced exactly where he should be. Stud transfer, Eric Singleton, not priced exactly where he should be, but we do know he's been dealing with some injuries in camp and may not be 100% for this game. He's going to play. It's just a matter of how much we get of him. And then Malcolm Simmons had some off-the-field issues, but he's been cleared. Horatio Fields is in from Wake. So there's definitely some names and some mispricing in this wide receiver room. And then on the Baylor side, we know this team can put up points. I like them a lot more being at home in this game. Sawyer Robertson is probably worth every penny at 9K most of the time. Same with Bryson Washington. It's just a matter of if this is the game environment for him. With 28.5-point team total, I think you still want to look at these guys. And the Baylor wide receiver room is maybe the most frustrating room in college football. Outside, I take that back. Notre Dame is really frustrating too, but Baylor's frustrating not because they don't produce. It's because it could be any one of these guys on any given day. Last year, Monterey Baldwin was like a top talent that would either get 20 or get 0. But Josh Cameron will lead this room. Trigg is a great tight end. Cole Wilson's in from Texas State. Ashton Hawkins saw some flashes and spikes last year. Kobe Prentice is here from Alabama, so he's a top-tier talent. And I'd have to look back. He may have played Auburn in the past. So a lot of points to go around here and a lot of talent and some mispricing. This seems like a game that we want to target.
Yeah, tight spread. Should be back and forth, two top-tier teams. Pricing is high. It's going to get the eyes of a lot of people just because it's the marquee game of the night. And it should be a great game. A couple question marks we have on the Auburn side. Number 1, quarterback. Hugh Freeze has come out and said 3 quarterbacks are going to play. It's hard not to believe him, especially in week 1. Now, how much are they going to play? That's one thing. Jackson Arnold, did he run away with a job? He's probably going to play the most. They brought in a shiny new recruit that they want to keep happy. Ashton Daniels came over from Stanford. He's a really good runner. I do anticipate he will get some running action because he could just basically double as a running back. You might see some double quarterback lineups on there with Daniels and Arnold on the field at the same time. They spell Alston a little bit. Cam Coleman is a stud. He's a future NFL. That he's a sophomore, but that receiver class from last year is just amazing.
Yeah, Cam
Coleman right there with Ryan Williams and Jeremiah Smith. So he's a great player. Singleton's a big question mark. Big question mark for Singleton because 2 days ago he wasn't sure if he was going to play. He's banged up in camp. Yesterday they said he will play. He's not 100%. We don't know how much. Does that mean he plays a couple plays that have a couple designs for him? We don't know. At 3.6, he's got some massive, massive upside. They brought him in for a reason. He was a great player at Georgia Tech. At 3.6, it's a lot of value. Is that worth it in one of your single entries cash kind of lineups? That's up for you to decide. I don't know. It's a big question mark. It's a high risk, high reward type of play. Does it open up for maybe Horatio Fields if he doesn't? Baylor side just priced up. These guys were so undervalued when they got it going last year. Robertson was in the 6Ks. Washington was in the 7Ks. They're priced right at 9K right here. It just makes it tough to build it with everybody, which means we got to try to go find value elsewhere. Washington is a workhorse running back. We talk about that. Sawyer Robertson is a stud quarterback. He's one of the best quarterbacks really in the country. It's definitely in the conference. So it's unique situation here with pricing. It's a priced up game. It's the marquee game. You got to make some decisions. You can't play them all. The receiver room, Cameron was really good last year, but he's also always priced in the 3Ks last year. So it's a lot easier to play him. 6.2 is probably a fair price, but if you're trying to stack this game, it makes it a little harder. You got to make some decisions on it. Trigg's always that tight end touchdown guy that you love.
Yeah, I was going to say it looks like a prime spot to play a tight end in this game. And Marty mentioned in the chat that Auburn's going to use 3 play callers today. I'm sure that won't get confusing. I wonder if they have 1 play caller per quarterback.
Right? Hugh Freeze is on a definitely very, very hot seat. So a lot of these changes, a lot of these marquee changes they brought in are, they're going to try to show it up. It's a big game, week 1, a lot to see, but tough game to stack, fun game to watch and play. Good pricing. It just makes the pricing so much tighter for all the other games. But if you look at it, if you look at the implied team totals, Auburn has a 30-point team total implied. Baylor has a 28.5-point team total implied. If you go up to Michigan State, their implied team total based on the spreads and the totals is 35. So sometimes numbers might tell you a different story. Even though better players, better game, maybe look at the numbers a little bit there to tell you kind of, where the math is pointing you to in that situation.
Yeah, and we're not telling you to play or not play these guys. We want to make sure that you have the good process in place and that you're taking in all of the information, just not some of the information. Names and pricing and talent is part of the equation. Look at the game environment. I mean, look at the weather. I don't think we have really any weather issues here, except maybe guys cramping up in the Texas games because it's so hot, but they've been practicing in that heat too. So it shouldn't be a huge deal, but take every factor into consideration when you're building your lineups and get that process nailed in. Another game, the implied team totals aren't as high as the last game, but it looks to be just as competitive. And we know Colorado can put up points. It's just a matter of if they can with this new look offense. On the Georgia Tech side, Haynes King is a name we all know. Another one of those quarterbacks who is dual threat, one of the best quarterbacks, especially for DFS. 9,800 is going to be tough. You'll have to figure out your way to him. Same with Jamal Haynes, a workhorse running back. Honestly, King and Haynes snipe from each other from time to time. I play King and it's Haynes. I play Haynes and it's King. And they're a good before and after clue from Wheel of Fortune, Jamal Haynes King. It's kind of fun. But the other thing, too, is they brought in Malachi Hosley. He's a transfer from Penn who rushed for 1,200 yards at the FCS level last year. So he's going to be in and hungry, and they've been talking about him out of camp, too. In the wide receiver room, Malik Rutherford is back. The aforementioned Singleton is gone, so he should be the alpha. But Eric Rivers was the best wide receiver at Florida International last year. And he came over. Dean Patterson came over with him. Isaiah Canyon is 6'4", big body jump ball guy. He's listed as a starter, but I would not be surprised if he plays, second fiddle to those other three guys. But he's up and coming. He was a tight end. Or no, I'm misreading my notes. See, here it is, week 1, head spinning cross-eyed. I'm just going to say their tight end is a 4-person rotation. So I don't know that you were looking at the tight end. You're probably looking more at these wide receivers, especially Canyon at min price if he's going to play. On the Colorado side, Caden Salter was announced at the starter, dual threat. He was a stud at Liberty, but I don't know how that's going to translate. Georgia Tech's probably the best team he's faced since the bowl game a couple years ago against Oregon, in which he played pretty poorly. Will we see Juju Lewis, the pretty little 5-star recruit? Potentially, maybe not this game because this is a pretty tough matchup to throw him out there in. In the running back room, Dallin Hayden is banged up and expected to miss this week. So we're going to see Micah Welch, who is also on some preseason watch lists. We have Simeon Price, but they've been talking a lot about DeKalen Taylor. They think he's going to mix in as the number 2 running back behind Welch, or technically number 3 when Hayden comes back. And then the interesting thing to me is in the wide receiver room. So far, I've seen ownership kind of spread out in the wide receivers. And Draylon Miller is kind of tracking to be a little bit lower owned than Amarion. And it might just be a pricing thing. But news out of camp is that Draylon's been taking reps at running back, and he could be in the mix in that running back rotation. So if he's going to be playing wide receiver and running back, it just increases his, if he's going to get, 15 to 18 touches instead of 8 target opportunities. That's something we want to look at. Sincere Brown's been getting a lot of hype out of camp. He's cheap. Joseph Williams had some monster games at Tulsa last year. Hakeem Williams, he'll probably get used in certain situations. But again, a little bit lower total, but with pricing and potential, there's a lot to love with this game.
Yeah, it's another one of those marquee games. We recognize some of the names, especially on the Georgia Tech side. Haynes King is priced up at 9.8. Is he worth it? He's probably the best quarterback play. He's got such a high upside with his throwing and running potential. It's a tight pricing game. He's priced up. That's a pretty steep price. You'll see with the Saturday slate's a little different, but today these quarterbacks are priced up. Haynes has always been, to me, underpriced. He touches the ball 20 times. He catches the ball, but he's always in that 7K range. It makes him playable as a workhorse running back. Rutherford, 5'6", is probably underpriced. We know there's a chemistry there. Rivers was a really big. He had offers from all the schools. But we don't know. We don't know what we don't know yet. But we do know that Rutherford has that, and he's there. Maybe there's a little comfort in that, but Rivers probably has a little higher ceiling just with his explosive plays. Colorado side, you mentioned it. A lot of question marks. They such an overhaul of their whole offense. Salter was so good at Liberty really 2 years ago is when he really shined. But he's got that experience. He's not going to shy away from anything here. But yeah, we've had some guessing games with their receiver rooms over the years. At least now they're priced on the 4Ks as opposed to the 7, 6, and 7Ks as they were before. But yeah, I know you covered everything with Draylon Miller, Amari and Miller. Maybe Draylon can get it has happened a lot that receivers on the slate do get a lot of carries. It's happened a lot in the past year or so.
Yeah, and it seems like, because I know we have Georgia on the slate tomorrow. Dylan Bell is the same way there. He's a name that pops up when you think about receivers carrying the ball. And then we also have defensive players carrying the ball and catching passes, Sequoia Parrish. Like, there's so many more guys moving around to different positions now that we didn't necessarily see 5-10 years ago. And maybe it happened here and there, but it is a lot more common now. And Miller himself, I think, said in an interview that he had to get his body right to take hits going up the middle, playing running back. So that was part of his training for the last month, basically, knowing that this was an opportunity for him. So again, this is one of those game stacks where if we are going to see tempered ownership a little bit, this is one you might want to take a shot on, because if both of these teams hit their ceiling, this game could be the one that breaks the slate if ownership isn't going to go there.
Yeah, elevation for Tech. Yeah, it's a thing. It's not something that we often see, one of those Southeast schools going out to elevation. But I think the game has changed a little bit as we get the technology for these colleges. There's so much money in these things, especially going into like a week 1 game. There's a lot of preparation that could be done. Is it a concern? Maybe at the end of the game, you might see them break down a little bit, but these guys travel so much. They're from all over the place. It's something to kind of in the back of your mind. Maybe if you're trying to get a play on the game, maybe a live play or something. But as far as playing, it's not going to hesitate me from playing anybody on Tech.
No, and like you said, so much has changed. The dieting is better. They have professionals come in to prepare meal plans for these kids so that their bodies get right. They have oxygen masks on the sideline. They have all the supplements and the stretching routines and the yoga, and they cater their workouts to make sure bodies are in prime position. So I don't look at it any different than any other game. And also, welcome. Hey, better late than never. And he knows what's up. Steven knows what's up. Got in late, but there should be more likes. I agree. Hit that like button, because you are going to like this next game. UNLV at Sam Houston State. Not only do we have a massive game total and implied team totals, these are two teams that we've seen already. They both played in week 0. So we have a little bit of data to go off of. Anthony Calandria, dubbed by the Cover 3 podcast as the Whoopsie Daisy King, which is one of my favorite nicknames in college football, because he can make something out of nothing. And there were a lot of whoopsie daisies at Virginia. Yeah. But he didn't have a good game against an FCS school last week, and he still ran for 117 yards. Alex Orji will mix in, but I don't think it's going to be enough to hurt Calandria, especially at 7,700. Jaden Thomas is their leading rusher. He comes back from last year. He got plenty done on the ground last year, but Jalen Glover's in from Utah, and he's only 3,300, and both guys can catch passes. So it really is just from that perspective, it's going to come down to how much do you value these guys. Even though it's a high octane offense, they'll share the backfield, and the price is vastly different on the two. And then for UNLV, we got Jaden Bradley, who had a monster game as far as targets and production is concerned. He just didn't find the end zone. So he had 107 more yards than the next closest pass catcher. I know he had a big 45, 50-yard catch that helped supplement that, but a yard is a yard in terms of DFS. It doesn't matter if it's in big plays or little chunks. Troy Omier he's an ASU transfer who we loved during the college football playoff last year. D'Angelo Irvin could see some time. He's a pit transfer. Day Reynolds is going to be on the field, and he's min-priced. Jojo Earl's in from TCU. Oh, and in case you guys didn't know, UNLV is maybe the most different team from last year to this year. New coaching staff, completely overhauled roster. And that could be part of the reason they looked terrible against Idaho State. It was their first game as a team, first game under the new coaching staff, first game with a lot of their teammates. So that's just something to keep in mind. They should play better today. And then on the Sam Houston State side, also should play better today. Hunter Watson wasn't terrible, but still clearly more comfortable on the ground than he is through the air. Alton McCaskill actually had a better game than Elijah Green. And I know you'll dig into McCaskill, what you saw of him on the field too, Ian, what you noticed throughout the game. Porter and Brown could still see the field. One thing I want to touch on is Michael Phoenix had a lot of hype coming out of camp and going into last week, and he did not play a single snap. Phil Longo said this week that we should see more of him, and he is on the 2 deep. And, we'll probably see more just for the fact that Grady O'Neal took a nasty hit last week, and I saw that his helmet was dented after he took that hit. And I know they said he's making progress, but I can't imagine, even if you're just the optics should keep him off the field for this game. And then Avion Smith-Mack played well last week. It seemed like Watson likes him. Quavez Humphreys has always been inconsistent, and we saw that inconsistency continue. And then the last thing I'll mention is that Derek Bledsoe is listed as a starter this week, and he's been priced. So there's a lot to love in this game and a lot to break down with this game just because we have real data. I know it's only one game, but we've been doing this a long time, and the eye test means a lot.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about that. The eye test is a big thing, especially when you got new coaching staffs in both places. Just getting a sense for where they're feeling. Clearly, at UNLV, they're trying to figure out who was going to be the quarterback that Dan Mullen preferred. Brought in 2 guys from Power 4 conferences. Calandra is a guy that we've seen kind of carry a DFS offense at Virginia. They put up some points, and he was clearly the better option last week for them as they kind of struggled to get that win. But we want to see, kind of the week to week, and you start seeing when the game was on the line, who was getting the touches, in the nitty gritty in the second half when they're trying to get the win, who was getting the touches. And that was Calandria at quarterback, Bradley at receiver as well. And Calandria is a guy that's carried really good receivers at Virginia for DFS purposes. Malik Washington a couple years ago, Malachi Fields. So those are guys that have really produced. So he's been there, done that. And if he goes at 7-7, he's got a really, really high ceiling there with a 35.5 point team total implied. On the other side, Watson's also a guy that we weren't sure if he was going to play the whole game with the new coaching staff, but he did. He had his running, he had his moments. We expected that, but kept him competitive. We expected to build off that too. But the running back position, we didn't really have the sense of where they were. Green had a lot of targets. I think he had like 6 or 7 catches. But McCaskill was the talent guy that we mentioned, right? He was a big time recruit, had a really good year early on in his career, came down. You really started to see him pick it up in the second half. He looked like himself. He looked healthy. He was gaining yards. He was kind of carrying the running room of that when they're in the game trying to press for a win. And that really stands out to me is that when push came to shove, when they were kind of going through the rotations, he was starting to get the carries. He was starting to get the run, and he started looking a lot better doing it. We know he's got the talent. So if you're betting on talent, that's him in the room. And if he's getting the touches with the talent, you want to get him when they're underpriced. And 4.9 is definitely an underpriced, high upside type of deal. Does he have a low floor? Yeah, he does. We don't know exactly what they're thinking, but if you look back with some data, it seems like this is the guy that they were really working off of there. And I kind of like that spot as a really high leverage type play. That's could probably be low ownership with a high ceiling, low floor, high ceiling type play though. And you mentioned the receiver room. We're kind of trying to still figure it out, but there's a lot of pricing there to take some chances. For a game that's implied into the 60s, a lot of value in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. And Metro Boom likes the UNLV side, and for good reason. They're mispriced. Everybody's too cheap, except maybe Jaden Thomas. The rest of the team is underpriced for a 35.5 point team total. And then Marty makes a good point. Smith-Mack starting in the slot, and Phil Longo's offense gets a lot of work in the slot. And we saw it last week. He stayed true to form as far as that's concerned. And the other thing too, I want to mention with this game, this is, a great game stack on paper. And you look at the wide receiver room, Humphreys is 1,000 more than the rest of these guys. So you're like, oh, why wouldn't I just play Smith-Mack or Phoenix or Bledsoe because they're so much cheaper? And Humphreys is inconsistent, but Humphreys is inconsistent. I would not be surprised if he has 25 points when all is said and done, just because of the way he'll have spike games. So definitely a game we're looking to target. I think a lot of people are on the same page as we are. But like you said, guys like McCaskill can get you a little bit different and still play this high total chalkier game. And then Central Michigan at San Jose State, the last game on the slate, kind of an implied team total over 30 for San Jose State. So there's got to be a little bit of love there, but it's a MAC team. And these MAC games so far this year have been, what is it? Has there been just the two? Either way. Oh, there's maybe another one that was off the slate, but either way, slow and methodical. Big Ten games are always slow and methodical, but we could see some fireworks with San Jose here. Central Michigan, I don't know how much we care about these guys, but Labus is back as a starter. He got hurt last year, and he was okay. Trey Cornish is a transfer from Tulane. He didn't do much, but that's because he was behind Mekhi Hughes. Biggin saw some action last year after converting from D-back in the wide receiver room. Tyson Davis missed all of last year with an injury. Langston Lewis missed last year with an injury and redshirted. These are guys that have potential but haven't seen the field. So I don't know that a 3 time zone difference road game against a better team is where you want to target them for DFS. But on the San Jose State side, Walter Egan is back. He was solid last year. He didn't start as a starter, but he did really well in the back half of the season. Floyd Chalk is one of the most fun names, I think, in college football DFS because no matter how owned he is, you're playing Chalk. And then another Sac State transfer, Danny Scudero, has real potential to be wide receiver 1. They've been loving him out of camp. Leland Smith is in from Purdue. Malachi Riley's in from Arizona. So we're getting some top-tier talent transfers in this wide receiver room. Will they produce as much as Nick Nash did last year? I don't know. Maybe Scudero will be this year's Nick Nash. If you think so, play him at 6,500 before he's 9K. And then San Jose State did have some production from the tight end room. They had 2 tight ends that got production. So Jackson Cannon should be solidified as tight end 1, but Grant Norberg is 6'7". So we have to make sure that is taken into account once we get into the red zone. And if you don't know what this is, my kids taught me. I just did that for them. They'll enjoy that on the playback. What are we looking at in this game?
Yeah, I'm not going to talk too much about the Central Michigan side. Kind of a weird travel spot. Most of these MAC schools have been playing Big Ten schools. Kind of makes sense, but they're flying out to San Jose. San Jose is it's a pretty unique concept up in Northern California. They got a pretty decent home field advantage there. But San Jose State side, team total implied over 30. What's interesting about them is they have some consistency there. Last year they had a new coach, Coach Ken from old coach from Navy for years. I don't want to mispronounce his last name, disrespect him or anything. So call him Coach Ken. But he was a Navy coach for a long time. He's definitely not running the triple option here though. But there's some stability in it, right? Egan took over last year. He really produced. He was a high ceiling type quarterback on these slates. And he's there. Floyd Chalk was a good play a lot of times last year. Yet receiver room is a big question mark because they lose Nick Nash, who was just an absolute college football, just absolute stud. So who replaces that? That's a lot of catches. That's a lot of yards to replace. Who replaces it? We don't know. The unique thing about them is they're pretty high price compared to the rest of the slate at receiver. So you're paying up to find out. But there is a lot of ceiling involved with that. Again, team total pretty high. 2 touchdown favorite. It's something that if you're playing GPPs, if you're playing a lot of lineups, you maybe look at a San Jose State stack. They might get overlooked because the name isn't there. It's the last game on the slate, but Egan does have a high ceiling at quarterback. He proved it last year, and there's stability in that offense, stability in that team, and that's something that I like to look at, especially when you come into week 1 off of a coaching turnover. It makes it a little bit more, not going to say totally predictable, but you could at least know a little bit of what the direction of the program is doing.
Yeah, and you return a quarterback who threw the ball 63% of the time last year. Marty makes a good point in the chat. And it's I don't know that I'd necessarily play him naked. I do like him with a stack if I'm going to play him. But if we get that sort of run pass percentage again this year, it doesn't matter. Like these guys being more expensive will just help make your lineup a little bit different if people are going to gravitate toward those cheaper options.
And there's value. There's value elsewhere. You got to get a little creative when you're looking for value. There's some high-priced guys. There's some high-ceiling guys. there's some tough decisions that you have to make. If you're trying to stack, if you're trying to find a game stack, if you're trying to, you have to make tough decisions. This is a fun slate because it's going to be tougher. The pricing is tight. There's some high priced, really good plays, but there is value out there.
And
when you look at the stone, try to find it.
Yeah, and so like I said, this is the blank version of the stone. I'll show you the colorful one in a minute, but get any last minute questions you have now. Ian, do you have any final thoughts on the slate? I mean, it seems like it's pretty clear which games on paper we want to target, but I don't know that there's a complete cross off other than maybe Kennesaw, maybe Western Michigan. But again, week 1, there's so many options on the table.
Yeah, there's a lot of value. We've mentioned this a couple times. Workhorses, touches, try to find the touches. People who are going to get the ball in their hands tend to have higher ceilings. Even though the running backs didn't score any touchdowns last night, they were still got there on it because they were able to touch the ball 20, 30 times through either catches or runs and get there through the bonuses. So look for guys who have those high touch ceilings, high touch floors. And then there's value. There is value. So that's what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to find touches. I'm going to try to find value. There's some decent spots to game stack, even in the cash lineup, single entry lineup. But it's a fun slate for me because I think that there's not an obvious play. There's not like a 70, 80% owned play. There's not like Hollywood Smothers last night who's going to get all this ownership. It's going to be spread out and makes it fun. And there's 2 really high profile games that should be fun to watch as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I'm looking through the stone, we have now more than 70 people in here. That's so awesome for a weekday during working hours. Some of you on your lunch break, some of you just procrastinating, but I love that you're here either way. I do want to give an ode to the big guy. I'm going to share one guy I'm playing because I cannot stop looking at his name, and it's Draylon Miller. Just you mentioned how many touches these guys get. And if everything out of camp is true, he is going to touch the ball more than anybody on the team other than the quarterback. And honestly, if we see Juju Lewis, maybe even more than both quarterbacks when all is said and done. But I wouldn't be surprised if they run some sort of wildcat. Neon Dion Coach Prime nothing would surprise me with him. So yeah, that's kind of what my thought on the slate is. And I think we broke it down pretty good. If you are interested in a more colorful stone, I'll give you a little peek of what the colored stone looks like. We'll show you what games we think are sneaky, what games we think are target, what games are obvious blowouts, what game we call it says no designation, but we just call them nothing games. And then throughout the season, we'll add more data. We'll get the team's pacing, pass defense grade, rush defense grade, what their percentage of run passes, and then targets, rushes per game. So you'll know what kind of touches to expect, their snap percentage, how often they're on the field. And again, that's all part of that football package, which you can still get the early bird special for $349. So Ian, I appreciate your time today, man. It's like I told Kenny yesterday, and after recording the Saturday stream,
our buddy's trolling us now, or trolling me.
Yeah, he's we
gotta go get a money line, Kenny. Gotta go money line.
Yeah, they're playing Florida. Yep. Yeah, if you're a true Braveheart would bet the money line.
Yeah, no, hey, you guys don't know, Bill's the hardest working guy in the CFB industry, and it's so much fun to be able to work with you, call your friend over the last couple of years. I'm honored to be able to share a show with you today. It's been so much fun. We love digging into these slates. Tomorrow we get a whole new one. It's great.
You are far too kind, and just know that it's a team thing. There's no way I could do this without the team. Anytime you see me on the screen by myself, it is because of the support of the college football team at SHIPIT Nation, you and Hamhock and Smarty. And, behind the scenes, we still have the editor and Monday and, all the guys at SHIPIT Nation that make this possible. So mega props to them. And as I said from the beginning of this season, we are going to keep the big guys rule number 1, which is college football is fun. Never take any day for granted. Enjoy the process. Enjoy building your lineups. Enjoy the sweat. Just be thankful that we have the opportunity to watch college football on TV and play college football DFS. So for myself and Ian here at SHIPIT Nation, let's all ship one for the big guy.